I want to start with like your beginning. Like, let's just start back at the beginning and give like a 5-minute story of where you've been, what you've done, and all that fun stuff. So.
No, Ashley and I were dated in high school. I was a football player. I was really bad. We lost our homecoming 69-0. I was a quarterback. I'm 5'10", shaped like a soup can. That's not the ideal dimensions for a quarterback. Small town, we lived a mile apart. She was a cheerleader. And we got married. I was a pizza delivery driver. We lived in a trailer park. And we were happy. And we like reminisce. We romanticize the trailer park, even though it actually sucked at the time. Now we're like, oh, remember the good old days when it was really hard and we had nothing. It wasn't actually that great having nothing and it being really hard. And I got the entrepreneurial bug because my football coach, who owned the Domino's Pizza, was like the first entrepreneur that I met. And he had a red Corvette. And I was like, that's impossible, you know? Blue collar family, but it got me the bug. So I started cleaning windows. There's not any, you guys are all gutter companies, right? Or roofing companies? I started cleaning windows. We were poor. Lots of bad things happened. Sometimes I joke I have a bachelor's degree in pain and a master's degree in suffering. Anybody else? I don't know. If there's a hard way, I would typically find it. Then things started to shift. And so our first business success was that window cleaning business. It wasn't huge. It was on the other side of Michigan. But we figured out how to get it up to a couple $100,000 a month, automated myself out of the business, which was like unbelievably impossible. And we sold it. Yeah. Yeah, I started cleaning windows, dabbled with it, got a couple other jobs. Then I went back and took it serious. And it worked. And I sold it to a small private equity out of California, and we moved to Costa Rica. Then I started getting involved in software. I launched a rather large coaching business. So lots of things have happened. I built and sold 4 companies, learned a lot, and we've survived 22 years married. She's never traded me in for a newer model yet, right? And, I think parenting is hard, entrepreneurship is hard, marriage is hard, and you mix it together, and it's like a Molotov cocktail of a potential nightmare circus. And so that's our heart. Our heart is helping family businesses make more money so they can do what matters most. You know, one of my favorite quotes is, no amount of success in business can compensate for failure in the home, right? Sometimes we win the wrong game on accident. And yeah, I've learned a lot. I met Colin. You know, if you guys knew what this property looked like even a few years ago, it's just unbelievable the transformation I've seen from you. I had this podcast I didn't think anyone would listen to, but it got like 1 million downloads somehow. I don't know. And I meet Colin, and you're literally a different human than you were 6-7 years ago. Fundamentally, your beliefs are different. The action you take is different. You've done a lot of intimidating things that challenge you, and you just did it, and you went faster. And how cool is this property, by the way? I mean, I live here in this weird random town. I drive by, I'm like, hell yeah, like way to go. Because it's impossible what you did. And no one even lives here. We live in the middle of nowhere. You're selling millions of dollars of stuff to people, and it's really incredible. And the reason that happened isn't because of a tactic per se, it's because of your belief. And, you know, over the last 15 years, the other thing I've really been fortunate to do is work with over 1,000 other small business owners. Not in a group setting, you know, one-to-one, knees-to-knees, toes-to-toes, just over this time. My wife, too. She's actually head of marketing at my current software company, wicked smart. And we just talk to people all the time. And what I notice is the thing that they think they need is not the thing they need. And we've gotten really good at selling people what they want, but then delivering them what they need. Everything ultimately goes back to like childhood and trauma and identity and orphan mindsets and all these things that no one wants to buy a solution to that. They want to buy a solution to, should I use blue or red on my flyer? And what's my hook? And how do I, reposition and choreograph my sales message so that architecture does this? And how do I increase my close rate and lower my customer acquisition costs? And all those things are good. But when you change what's going on between your ears, everything else is easier. And that's what you've done. And you're a different human now. You're a different father now, a different husband now. Everything's different. And it's upgraded. So that's sort of our story, I guess.
Well, thank you for the encouragement in that. And I feel that. And I was just setting him up over there. He's like, dude, this is impossible. I go, what do you mean? I did it. And he's like, no, like, think about yourself when we first met. Like, you would have never believed that this was possible. And he's right. You know, when we met,
You were doing like 250 grand or something like that?
250 grand, and now, that's a down month, but 250 grand in a year, and we were operating out of a little crappy shed in the back of my property, and I knew everything.
Well, the other thing is I've noticed one of the things, not just with you, but that's a common thing I notice, is your ego is way lower as your success scaled. So like if we're looking at a graph, it's like ego high, results low. And what happens is it goes like this. And there's this nexus point where it's like, because it takes humility to do what I would tell you to do. So when I started formally working with you, I'd be like, do this thing. And you were like, I don't know about that. But you do it anyway. And you'd gradually take action faster, even though you didn't fully understand things, and that's what happens. So it takes humility. I've noticed a lot of really high achievers actually have less pride than broke people. Poor people, broke people, people that are stuck are trying to protect themselves from looking stupid, right? Because they're not willing to do something bad so they can eventually be great. They're not willing to do something imperfectly. What's that?
Hire a coach.
Yeah, hiring a coach takes humility. Implementing something you're uncomfortable with takes humility. The first time you try to go live on Facebook or something, you want to throw up. I'm actually an extreme introvert. I love sitting in the woods and reading books by myself. Like, that's my dream life. But, I speak all over the place all the time. But the first 50 times I did it, I wanted to throw up. And it takes humility to be willing to look stupid so eventually you can develop a skill set, right? And that's what I saw you do. And that's what I see all high achievers do. There's the occasional douchey guy that just succeeds and doesn't have humility, but yeah. Yeah, and what happens is we think that that's what successful people are like. It's not true. If you know really successful people, they want to help, they want to share. And they're exactly the same as everybody else, except in a few categories.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories to tell off of that is you encouraged me. God, this was probably 3 or 4 years ago. You're like, Colin, you're starting to do these things, but they still seem really big to you. You got to start practicing making big things feel less.
You have to reframe
right?
what big is.
Exactly, reframe what big is. And so at that point, I was wearing like $8 Walmart watches, but I really liked watches. And so I went out and I was like, all right, I'm going to buy an expensive watch. And I bought a $250 watch, right? And I was like, and I protected that thing. It was like my Sunday watch. And if I was actually doing physical work, I wasn't going to wear it. And I was like, wait, that's the wrong mindset. I need to just wear this thing no matter what I'm doing, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm changing a poopy diaper or whatever, I'm going to wear this watch. And so I did that. And then my wife was like, what are you doing? That's an expensive watch. And I was like, I got to get her doing the same thing. And then that same time, you went live on how Josh bought you 2 Coach purses or something like that because you couldn't decide which one. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to copy him. And so I went and I bought my wife a Coach purse, and she had never owned a purse like that. And she was like, Colin, when am I going to use this thing? We don't do fancy dates and whatever else. And I was like, no, you're going to wear it every day. She's like, what? She said, Colin, I'm not going to wear this. I would feel horrible if I'm in Meijer, checking out with my groceries, and the person in front of me can't afford their groceries, and I got this Coach purse. And I was like, well, what would you do right now? She goes, oh, I'd buy their groceries. And I was like, why would that change when you have a Coach purse? And she's like, you're right. That wouldn't change. You're right. You get to rewrite that narrative of rich people can do cool things too, right, and still help other people. And she's like, I got it, right? And so she did. And now that Coach purse is literally ragged, right? And she can't wear it because it's falling apart, right? So
she needs a new one.
She needs a new one.
Backup, ready to go call it.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Man, that's a deep topic.
It is.
We could talk for 3 hours on that. I met a guy in Russell Brunson's inner circle that hired Sam Ovens. If you don't know Sam Ovens, he's the founder of School. Him and Alex Hormozy have this platform called School.
I didn't know Alex had a partner in that. So.
Oh, yeah. Sam is School. Alex came in way after the fact. Sam owned, he owned consulting.com. He's a very interesting guy. Anyway, so this guy that I met named Andrew Argue paid Sam $100,000 for him to mentor him. And the first call he had with Sam Ovens, and by the way, Andrew Argue was in the accounting business, but he was stuck at $2 million. The really short version of this story is he went from $2 million to $20 million pretty quick, in 2.5 years. But when he hired Sam Ovens, what Sam Ovens told him to do made no logical sense. What he told him to do, he said, I want you to change your wardrobe, get a different haircut, you're going to change your diet, and I want you to rent a new apartment. And this was all counterintuitive. And so he lived in the city. He got like a $10,000 a month high-end apartment. He spent all this extra money, and he just thought it was nonsense. And it's not about doing weird nonsense, woo-woo, Tony Robbins stuff. But what Sam Ovens observed with Andrew, that I've seen a lot, is he needed an identity upgrade. Because what will happen is people pursue what they think they're worthy of, okay? People pursue what they think they deserve. The word deserve is a really loaded word because it's subjective and it means different things to different people.
Yeah, it's been mixed with
When I bought
entitlement.
those purses for Ashley, we don't give a crap about that kind of stuff, literally at all. However, I noticed that nice things had power over us. Because when I got her the purses, she started talking really, really, really fast. Well, I can't get that. Oh my God. I'm like, that's weird that you're having a visceral reaction to a material thing that doesn't mean anything. Because no purse is intrinsically worth $1,000. It turns out later, I didn't even know this at the time, Coach is like the poor rich person's purse.
Yeah, that's what I
It's like
say
the
too.
crappy nice one. I just thought it was like, there's $10,000, there's $100,000 Birkin purses and stuff. But I noticed the power it had over her emotion. It triggered her, which it goes back to identity and stuff. So this guy had this huge breakthrough in his business because Sam was smart enough, he's a brilliant person, to actually solve the real problem, which was an identity problem. And oftentimes business owners will get to a certain level and get stuck for like a long time. And this happens at different levels. Some people get stuck at 10 million and they can't break through. I've also noticed there's the ones and threes. So making your first $100,000 in business is like impossible. And then you can do 300,000, it's no big deal. A million's a break point, 3 million, 10 million's a break point, 30 million's a break point. And these are all identity things. So people get stuck because they're like, okay, I'm at the level that I'm supposed to be at, according to who I believe that I am. Right? Does that make sense?
Big time.
And they'll just get stuck there. Another thing that's interesting is everyone has what I call a panic number. So in your business bank account, your personal bank account, there's some sort of level to it that if you go below or you hit the panic number, you will move heaven and earth very quickly and solve the problem.
That's right.
And some people's panic number is $1 million in cash. Some people is, $100. When we lived in the trailer, if I got below $200, I'm like, all right, I'm doing stuff. This is not okay. And I'd and get it up. And then I'd coast again because I was keeping homeostasis with my identity. Yeah. Like 80% of lottery winners go bankrupt within 5 years because of this same thing, right? Because when their bank account goes here, but their identity is here, it will equilibrize.
Right.
So I just think all that's interesting. Coaching programs, tactics are important, but identity is more important. And so what's really valuable, one of the things I like about you, because you know this stuff, is that inside your programs, you're giving people a lot of what they need, not just what they want. Right. And proximity helps your belief in identity. Being in small groups like this, all of you guys are complete weirdos for even coming to a thing like this.
I couldn't explain it when people ask me why I'm traveling 12 hours to go to Michigan.
Yeah.
Nobody understood. Like,
Right, no. Because you're insane.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you know that you're meant for more. There's a part of you that knows there's more. And there's got to be some friction in your brain, like you're frustrated. There's something like, and you probably question it, am I crazy? Is there really more? But there's part of you who's like, yes, there's more. I'm built for more. I can go faster. I can go bigger. You probably care about other people. You probably want to help people. I mean, is the reason you came here so you can buy more hot tubs and jet skis? What's your big dream? What's your big contribution thing? Do you want to give your family a second home? Do you want to pay off your debt? Do you want to help your parents? Do you want to build an orphanage? There's probably some driver. What is it for you? What's interesting is when you make a decision to go for it or come to an event like this, almost always chaos happens. So Myron Golden says, disruption always follows intention. So you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to level up. And then your employee quits. Something happens. A customer doesn't pay you. Something happens. Is this true?
Yep.
Every time you want to go for it, it's like the wheels fall off.
2 days before I had to be here, totaled my truck.
Yeah, exactly. And so that resistance you feel, the fear that you feel, one thing that will help you, that's helped me, is recognizing that chaos is a clue that you're actually on the right track. Most people interpret it as, uh-oh, got to shrink back. Uh-oh, got to go back to my comfort zone. No, 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 no. This is the way it always is. So it's your response to the resistance, which is what, who wrote the War of Art? Stephen Pressfield. Resistance is a clue, right? Anxiety, that weird discomfort feeling, that's a clue that you're on the right track.
Right.
I think it's the way, it's like a universal law, it's a principle. You know, whatever goes up has to first go down. It's called the law of advancement, like Myron always talks about. If you want to get stronger, you have to first get weaker. That's how it works. If you want your bank account to go up, it has to first go down. That's how it works. If a bird wants to fly, it has to jump out of the nest and fall, and its mom will catch it and put it back up there, and it's probably panicking the whole time, screaming for its life, like, ah, you know. So to level up, you have to humble yourself. To get smarter, you have to get not dumber, but you have to intellectually lower yourself to get intellectually higher. And what happens is, this is what I meant in the beginning with the humility thing, is people aren't willing to do that. So you literally tear your muscles doing push-ups and temporarily get weaker so that you get stronger.
That's right.
When you invest in yourself, you get poorer for a minute so you can get wealthier. That's one of the secrets. You know the cheesy personal development quote, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. Or Myron, I love Myron, he says, there's two types of work. There's the work you do on it and the work it does on you. I mean, which of you are a different person right now than you were when you started your company? 100%, right? You're literally a different human. So what happens is, you are a different human, but there's still this chasm of who you need to be in the future and who you are right now. So you're leveling up, but you might be stuck. The reason you get stuck is because you've reached your panic number, you have some level of stability, and then now you got to make a decision. Are you going to go big or are you going to stay safe? You know, Ben Franklin said something about, I'm going to butcher the quote, but he talks about choosing, you know, liberty over safety. You know, you can choose red pill, blue pill from the matrix to like stay in the comfort zone or to get out of the matrix, you know? And yeah, you can interpret things as negative, as happening to you. It's just a lot of mindset stuff. But the real key, the real question we should all be asking is, how do we upgrade who we think we are, what we think we deserve? How do we break orphan mindsets? And the way you do it is by having weird conversations like this. All of the richest people I talk to, all we do is talk about this type of stuff, actually. In the lower level rooms that I go to, beginners in business, all they want to do is talk about tactics. And that's not bad, it's just true. You know, it's all existential, weird identity stuff that all the richest people are talking about. And beginners are talking about, they're arguing about types of gutter, you know, technical stuff. They're arguing about this aluminum with the technobabble, the reverse flux capacitor, inverse release valve, and no, you're stupid, and you need to, and all the wealthy people are talking about, like, how do I choreograph this, and how do I go faster? What small events like this do for you is they help you collapse time. If you're taking notes, I would write down the word leverage, and write down the word collapse time. That's your goal. Because making money actually has more to do with time than it even does with money. Right? $1 million in 30 years isn't the same as $1 million in 30 days. It's not the same thing. And the variable isn't the money, the variable is the time. And so mentorship, proximity, being in rooms like this, spending a few bucks, I don't know what you charge to come to this or whatever.
$500.
Okay, that's it?
Right.
Okay. Amazing, right? But you're collapsing time, right? So you're putting a little money out there, you're going to make a gigantic ROI, but it's not about the money you make back, it's about the speed that you gain from it, leverage. You can build your business by riding a bicycle, or you can build your business by getting in an airplane. You know, walking and riding a bicycle and driving in a car and riding an airplane and doing a rocket ship, these are all different levels of leverage, right? Does that make sense?
That makes
That's
sense.
what we want. And the other thing I noticed is when we were first starting out, we weren't good at making decisions because we don't trust ourselves. The word confidence comes from the root word confide, which means to trust yourself. That's what it actually means if you do the etymology on the word. You know, like high fidelity, like a high fidelity record means like a really trustworthy record. It's accurate. Confidence, if you break apart the word, means confidence. It means with trust. That's what the word means. And people that haven't had a lot of success, they don't have a lot of trust in themselves. Therefore, they don't make decisions. And low achievers make decisions really slowly and change their mind often. High achievers make decisions quickly and change their mind rarely. And so when I'm working like one-on-one with people sometimes, what I'll do is I'll have them focus on just making faster decisions. That by itself can change your life forever. Because the mistake people make is they try to make perfect decisions, and it's too slow. What we need to do is make lots of decisions so that we increase the data set of, oh, that one was bad, this one was good. Like, think of it like this. Over the course of this next 12 months, what's better? Making 15 very good decisions or making 163 decisions, but only 50% of them are good?
Right.
Which one helps you go faster? Which one helps you get more leverage? Decision velocity is huge. Because now I have 153 data points to look at and be like, whoopsie daisy on these ones,
Yep.
and say, oh, I nailed it on these ones. And so your decisions get more accurate the more decisions that you make.
Exactly.
Therefore, your confidence, your trusting of yourself goes up, and you can move faster.
Right.
It's all about speed.
That's right. Has anybody experienced that in their own life? Making faster decisions equals whatever, more time, more money, more whatever it is you're looking for. Anybody experience that?
Yeah, you can break that down to a simple thing as, I'm gonna wear this pair of shoes today.
Right.
Yeah,
Put the shoes on and you're out the door.
I actually wear the same clothes every day because I'm a weirdo.
They're different clothes.
Well, they're different. They're different. I just have like 6 of this exact hoodie, right?
Maybe
But
10 of these, actually.
yeah, there's a concept too called decision fatigue, where we're burning a lot of glucose in our brain, making decisions that don't really matter. And so by the end of the day, you actually have less willpower and less decision battery juice. So you don't want to waste it on things that don't matter. You know, people like Steve Jobs, there's a lot of people that would just kind of wear the same thing, or they'll have, a certain thing that they wear. And that's a silly example, but it's actually true. I don't have to make a decision on that. It's already decided. So then I can save that glucose in my brain to focus on other decisions.
That's right.
Stop being so stressed out about making wrong decisions.
Right.
Focus on making decisions at all.
That's right.
Just make them, because the more of them that you make, the more accurate you'll get at making them.
That's right.
Right? You need a bigger data set of total decisions to figure out, oh, whoopsie daisy, right?
Right.
Or that one was good. Success leaves clues. Give yourself a bigger data set of clues.
Right.
Who here has ever hired someone you know you should fire them, but you just don't do it for 6 months? Anybody? Is it just me?
I'm a dickhead.
You fire quick?
Yeah, it's like a lot of us know what we should do, we just don't do it.
Right.
Isn't that weird?
It's
Like,
the
I'm not confused on how to be fit. I just eat birthday cake for breakfast.
Yeah. Right.
I know that that's not how to be fit. I'm not, with our business, we don't need the secret hidden knowledge as much as we think.
That's right.
It's not an information problem, it's a behavior problem.
Yep.
It's an identity problem. It's something like that.
Big time.
And so, I don't know, like, this is what I've seen with you. The reason you did impossible things is because you leveled up who you think that you are. You lowered your ego and humility, took massive imperfect action because you put trust in me. And it's not like what I say to do is magical unicorn fairy dust, but because you did it, you went really fast.
Right. Those decisions.
And that's what happened with you. I actually have a software company called Send Gym. And when I sold my service company, we moved to Costa Rica, I went all in on this software company. And I thought I was really smart because I built this business and sold it to like private equity, which sounds really fancy. And I got kicked in the nuts hard. Everybody sees the wine, but no one sees the crushing of the grapes. Anybody had their grapes crushed or no? I got humbled fast. So actually with my software company, what happened was I only did $900,000 in revenue with that new software business over 6 years, never took one paycheck. Cost me $1 million to build it. I did $900K in revenue. 6 years worked full time, never made $1. That's painful. And then I hired someone, Russell Brunson. He started a company called ClickFunnels. He's like an internet marketer. Within 18 months after hiring him, we did like 4.2 million in new revenue with that software. It was like unbelievable. And he didn't give me magical unicorn fairy dust. That's what I always, it wasn't the secret hidden knowledge like, oh, this is the phrase to use on your ad. But my identity shifted and the business took off, which is wild, right? That's what happened. It took humility. Yeah, for SendGem. And SendGem does good today. It has a 7-figure EBITDA. I don't work in it. Our office is headquartered in Nashville. I get checks every quarter, and that's it. It's just mailbox money. We just got one when we got back to Michigan, because we have a studio in Dallas too. We go back and forth. But it's insane, the turnaround with that. And so Russell helped me go faster. But I had to let my bank account and my humility go down so that all of it could go up, basically. Yeah, I made $250 in 1 month because of one thing he told me to do. And because I paid him a lot of money, I kind of like had no choice but to do what he said.
That's right.
Or else I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Well, I mean, that's a powerful thing right there. The reason I've paid you what I have in my life and paid
You paid me a
Miller,
lot of money.
I have paid you a lot of money. I mean, I'm over 6 figures, I'm sure, to you. But
I had a guy this week wire me $100,000. I talk to him once a week on the phone.
Yeah.
That's all that he gets. And now, who knows that makes your butt pucker up?
Yeah.
So what's useful though is it's not about the money to me, and him giving me the money doesn't necessarily change my life, okay? But it's what it does to that person's brain. Well, the level of action someone takes because they're invested is totally different. You guys probably give people advice on the internet, or you've talked to business owners who are 2 chapters behind you, and then they're like, "Thanks, man," and they do nothing. True?
Yep.
Isn't that annoying? Yeah, I saw somewhere on Instagram, there's some world famous violinist, I think, and he sells out Carnegie Hall or whatever the name of the thing is in New York. I mean, $200 to $500 tickets, sold out shows. He had sold out show after sold out show. They did a social experiment where they put him in the subway and dressed him up as a homeless man.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that? And he made like $300 in tips over the weekend. And he's playing the exact same set,
Right.
and no one's paying attention to him.
That's right.
It's fascinating
It's so fascinating.
because people didn't value it the same.
Right. You got to know your target audience, right? Like we dug into that yesterday, right? You can't be marketing to people who want to buy $1,000 thing when you're trying to sell a $10,000 thing.
Well, the hardest person to market to is ourselves. If you want a writer downer, that's a writer downer. The biggest sale you're ever going to make is to you. That's what's going on in people's brain.
Right. That's why, going back to your story of an identity shift, it's so important that we walk in that we understand our identity and what we want to be, what we're going to choose to be.
Some people feel guilty for having desires. That was my problem. It's like I felt guilty for wanting more, for contributing more. Like I felt weird. Not that everybody does, because they don't. That was hard for me. And then I realized the word desire means of the king. You know, we love Jesus over here. Doesn't mean you have to, but Jesus is awesome. I'd be dead if it wasn't for God, literally. But what I realized was the desires God put in me are supposed to be there. They're actually a clue. You know, and wanting to be radically generous and wanting to give my kids an unfair advantage, wanting to be able to travel and contribute and do all these things were not bad or dirty. But when you think that your desires are bad, you won't pursue them, right? And I really struggled with that. But desire means of the king. Remember, like sire?
Yeah.
Sire, desire of the king.
Right.
You know, and all of our natural desires are supposed to be there. We're hungry because food exists.
Yeah.
People are horny because sex exists,
Right.
right? There's things that we need and crave that are not bad. Wanting to be successful is like a natural thing.
Right.
You know, children of the king, it's normal for them to have opulence and abundance and success. And I had a hard time with that because of poverty programming. And I had great parents that loved me very much and worked very hard, but they believed things that weren't true. To get ahead, you have to work hard. People that are successful must have done something wrong. Money doesn't grow on trees. These are not true statements.
Right.
Time is money. No, it's not. It's false.
Yep.
Time is infinitely more valuable than money. Money replenishes, but time doesn't. You know, there's a story in the Bible where Jacob and Esau, and basically the older brother sells his birthright for a bowl of soup. It's a really weird story. And what we do is we only focus on short-term pleasures instead of long-term payoff. And you'll notice that really successful people are fixated on the back end, not the front end. Amateurs focus on the front end, professionals focus on the back end. It's not about how many dollars you invest right now, it's about what's the long-term payoff.
Right.
Right? If you're constantly investing in yourself and you're leveling up your mindsets and your skill sets and your network, even though you're uncomfortable, and you're collapsing time and doing shortcuts and you're humbling yourself, this is all long-term payoff stuff, you get rich. That's always what happens. It's mechanical.
Yeah.
Like it'll just happen.
That's right. So it's one of my favorite analogies is I was a baseball player growing up, and so as a player, sometimes we get stuck in the batter's box, and we're just so focused on trying to read that little ball and the laces coming in to know is this a fastball, is this a changeup, curveball, whatever, right? And we're failing to see the whole field of play. And that's why we have coaches and the owners up in the owner's box, and there's a dude up in the blimp who really has $1 million view, right? And I had to view hiring people like Josh as the dude in the blimp for me, right? So that he can see what's going on outside of the ballpark.
We're all idiots when we work on our own business.
Yes.
Like, including me. I'm looking for a different mentor right now. I think everyone should actually have a mentor and be a mentor until you're dead.
Yeah.
Because one of the best ways to learn is actually to teach, too. There's a really good quote, don't make a career out of laying the groundwork. What that means is, sometimes is there any overthinkers or overplanners or perfectionists? Is it just me? No?
I don't overplan.
What happens is,
That's actually, honestly,
that's actually great.
that's better. Yeah, that's how I am. I'm very much that way. And going off of what Josh was talking about, sorry, I'm derailing you for 1 minute. But the decisions and making decisions and making 160 decisions and half of them hit versus 15 decisions and they all hit.
Yeah, because what will happen is the next 160 decisions, 63% of them hit.
Right.
The next 150 decisions after that, 76% of them hit.
Right.
And so they get more, the success ratio of the decision making compounds and goes up the bigger the data set of the decisions.
That's it.
And then eventually you trust your gut and it's accurate.
Exactly. Right.
That's the goal.
That's it. That's it. You get there. So last year was a big year for me. I launched 6 businesses. 2 of them have failed, but the other 4 have, I think it's over 2.5 million in total sales, right? And there are people out there that look at the 2 that failed and point that out. Like Colin failed 2 businesses.
Entrepreneurship is it's what it is. It's like baseball. It's not failure.
Right.
It's a feedback loop of data.
Exactly. That's it.
Trying to avoid failure is what ruins it for people.
Yep. 100%.
Like baseball, if you're a Hall of Fame baseball player, you'd have like a lifetime batting average of like 300.
Yeah, 1/3.
Yeah, so you're not getting on base 7 out of 10 times, and that means you're the best that ever lived.
Yep.
And entrepreneurship's sort of like that.
Yep.
Fear is so huge. We make decisions on fear. We don't spend money and don't invest based on fear. Buy things or don't buy things, but if your driver for doing it or not doing it is rooted in fear, you got a problem.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be rooted in fear. You can do or not do. That's okay. Be decisive. But if the reason you're not doing it is because of fear, that's not good.
Right.
Right?
That's right.
Don't let the fear control you. And this is not easy.
Right. Yeah.
And I know this sounds woo-woo, but it's actually happening every day with little decisions. Whether we hire or don't hire based on fear, we need to know what we want. We need to have a plan. We need to trust ourselves and make faster decisions and not beat ourselves up when we make a mistake.
That's right.
And then over time, it gets tighter and more accurate, and success happens more often.
That's right. You've mentored so many people, starting with the Conquer program, which I was one of the first members of.
Yeah.
They had an event at the Holiday Inn. Well, it wasn't the Holiday Inn then. It was a Ramada or something like that. But had it here, and a bunch of people flew in from all over the country. I think you had like 30 businesses at each event or something.
We had
like that.
60 businesses the last 2 years we did that.
Okay.
It was $3,000 to come to the event. And it was a very strange, weird, crazy, epic event, right?
Yeah, it was super fun. But yeah.
And we went to our house and stuff.
Right. They all went to my house last night. So I've mimicked that, but on a little bit smaller scale. But anyways, when you rolled out Conquer, the Conquer coaching program, It was hindsight now really inexpensive, but at the time it was a huge deal, right?
Right.
For every business.
It was
in
like
there.
$9,000 a year.
Yeah, right. But what were some of the big differentiators between people who got in that program? And I remember you telling me you'd have conversations with Ashley, like, hey, Ashley would say, do you know if Colin or Wes or Philip is going to be successful? And like, what were some of the key, I guess the KPIs that you would see in people to know like they're gonna do something big? And then what were some of the things that you knew would keep people at that $250,000 to $500,000 a year mark? Like, did you have indicators?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I knew Colin would be successful. The way you can tell if someone's going to be successful is if they, number one, if they have hunger. One thing a coach can't do for you is make you hungry. What?
Said you could quit feeding them.
You can borrow other people's belief. So what can happen if Colin is actually hungry for success, but he doesn't know if he can make it? That's fine, we can work with that, that's not a problem. Some people just don't want success, and that's okay too. I think the internet programs people like Grant Cardone, 10x this, 10x that. Your purpose might not be to 10x anything. Maybe it's to have a small boutique business that's manageable so that you can do something else. Like, not everybody's supposed to have a $100 million, bajillion-dollar thing. Right. And so if you don't know what you want, everything's harder. First thing I do when I work with people one-on-one is I try to figure out, what do you actually want? I'm trying to figure out if there's real hunger. An example of that would be, what do you want? Colin, if you and I were standing together 12 months in the future, looking back on the time we spent together, what would have needed to happen for you to say that was the best $100,000 I ever spent? And then you'll start telling me things. And you might say, dude, if I get to 5 trucks, if I get to 5 crews, unbelievable. It's totally worth it. And I'll say, okay. Now, because I've done this a long time, I know that he doesn't actually want 5 trucks, but you think that you want 5 trucks. Yep. And so I'll use what's called a so that bridge. And I'll say, okay, you want 5 trucks so that what? What do you think that gives you? And then you'll be confused and be like, that's a weird question. I want 5 trucks so that I make more money, dummy, right? Yep. And I'm like, okay. And you want more money so that what? And then you're like, what are we talking about? Give me the tactic. How do I run the Facebook ad? I'm like, I'm going to get there, but you want 5 trucks so that what? So that you can make more money. You want more money so that what? And you'll say, well, so I can pay off my debt. Now I'm like moving down the layers of the onion. Now, I'll also notice that he gets a little embarrassed when he says the debt, even though he shouldn't. Because his ego didn't want me to know that yet. Yep. And this isn't what actually happened with you, but what I'm saying is this will happen. And I'll say, okay. And you want to pay off your debt so that what? And this is a true story. The guy that this happened with almost started getting choked up at this point. He said, I want to pay off my debt so that my wife stops nagging me. And I'm like, And then I asked him the final so that. You want her to stop nagging you so that what? And he said, so that she'll trust me again. And then he was crying. He literally started crying. So what this guy thought that he wanted was 5 trucks, and he was confused. He was just not a stupid person. It's just that all of our IQs go down 100 points when we're working on our own business, yes? This is why you need a second set of eyes. And so do I, and so does everybody. When I paid Russell Brunson $25K, which is a freaking bargain, right. That's insane that it costs that much. The guy built a $100 million company in 3 years, and he would talk to me and tell me stuff. Right. So he was actually hiring a mentor at the time, too. And that blew my mind. And the coach that he was working with, I think it was $250,000. I actually interviewed Tommy Mello, paid $1 million to one mentor this last year.
Tommy did?
Yeah.
I didn't get to finish that interview.
So anyway, the guy that Russell was working with would only work with entrepreneurs who had cycled. Meaning this coach only worked with people that had become multimillionaires, lost everything, and did it again. Because you have a different level of humility when that happens.